Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this beautiful dress. It's a pencil dress with a high-low gathers. Please keep on watching and let's get started. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Shoulder to the chest line is 8.5 inches, shoulder to the bust line is 11 inches, shoulder to the under bust is 14 inches, and shoulder to the waistline is 18 inches. I'll go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a ruler. Next, I'll mark the neckline width and the neckline depth. I'll be using a neck width of 3.5 and a neck depth of 4 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. I'll come down by 1.5 inches on the shoulder line for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect it back into the neckline. I'll go in with the bust measurements divided by 4, and I'll mark it on the chest line. I'm going up by 3 inches and I'll make a point there, and from that 3 inches point I'll come out by 0.75 and I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. The next thing is to go in with the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll add 1.5 inches allowance for that, and I'll make a mark there and I'll connect it to the chest line. I am going in with the bust span measurements divided by 2. I'll mark it on the waistline and also on the bust line, and I'll connect with a ruler. I added 1.5 inches allowance for that to the waist measurement, so I'll take in 0.75 on both sides of the dart leg and I'll connect it to the bust point. The next thing is to take in the bust dart. The difference between the front and the back half length is 3 inches, so I'm marking 3 inches on the bust line and I'll connect it to the bust point. That is all for the front pattern. I'll cut it out now. While cutting, I'll fold the bust dart so that I can cut the side. By doing this, I won't have any shortage at the sides. So I'm folding it and I'll make it straight at the side, then I'll cut it out. I am using 3 yards of fabric for this towel, and the fabric I'm using is scuba. Because scuba is a stretchy fabric, you can decide not to add allowance to your pattern. You can add to the top and bottom for joining allowance, but you can decide not to add to the sides. I am adding ½ inch allowance to mine. Because it is a stretchy fabric, you can decide not to add. I'm only adding ½ inch for the purpose of this tutorial for those that will not be working with a stretchy fabric. You are going to add your allowance exactly the way I am adding mine. Please pay attention to this part where I'm going to transfer the darts on the pattern to the fabric. So I put a pin on the bust point. So I put a pin exactly on the bust point and I'm notching my darts on the fabric. And I'll also notch the bust dart on the fabric, just the way I notched mine now. And I'll open up the fabric now. I have removed the pin now and I used my chalk to mark the bust point. It is important to mark that point. What I'll do now is to go ahead and take in the bust dart. Remember, we made the notch there, so go ahead and take the bust dart, but from the bust point you leave a space of 1 inch. That is where the dart will stop. You don't stitch it up onto the bust point, you leave a space of 1 inch. You repeat the same process for the other bust dart, and you also take in the waist dart. I'll go ahead and do that now. But before I do that, I'll cut out facing for the neckline. So just fold a piece of fabric into 2 and trace out the neckline. and cut out the neckline on that piece of fabric. After cutting out the neckline, I'll go ahead and mark out 4 inches. That will be the length of the facing. You're going to place the facing on the right side of the fabric and you stitch around the neckline like so. So I'll go ahead and do that now, and I'll bring it back and show you. Shoulder to the chest line is 8.5 inches and shoulder to the waistline is 15 inches, and I have a zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. The next thing I'll do now is to go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch allowance. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a ruler. I'll go in with the neckline width and the neckline depth. I'll use a neck width of 3.5 inches and a neck depth of 2 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. I am coming down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect it back into the neckline. Here I am remarking the shoulder slant. I initially came down by 1.5 inches instead of 1 inch. I marked my 1 inch again and I'll connect it back. So I'll be using the 1 inch mark, not the 1.5 inches. From the shoulder slant, I'll divide what I have left by 2 and make a point at the midpoint. I came in by 0.25 at the midpoint, and I'll go in with the bust measurement divided by 4. I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. The next thing is to go in with the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll add 1 inch allowance for that, and I'll connect with a straight line. Next, I'll go in with the bust pan measurements divided by 2. I'll mark it on the waistline and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a ruler. From the chest line, I came down by 1 inch, that is where the dart will end, and I'll go in by 0.5 on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect with a straight line. That is all for the back pattern. I'll cut it out now. I am transferring the back pattern to fabric now, and my fabric is folded into 2. I'll pin the pattern to the fabric. I'll add my 0.5 inch allowance round the pattern, and I'll cut it out. I am transferring my darts to fabric now, and I'll notch it, and I'll also take note of the length of the darts I'll be taking. The next thing I'll do now is to cut out facing for the back. I have another piece of fabric here folded into 2, and I'll place the back on that piece of fabric, and I'll cut it out. I'll cut out the neckline and the shoulder area, and I'll mark 4 inch. Same measurement I marked out for the front facing is what I'll also be using for the back facing. I'll mark out 4 inches and I'll cut it out. I'll place each of the facing on the right side of the back like this, and I'll go ahead and stitch around the neckline, and I'll also take in my darts and I'll bring it back and show you. For this skirt pattern, my paper is folded into 2, and I'll go ahead and mark out the length of the skirt. The length I'm working with here is 22 inches. The full length of the dress is 46 inches, the half length is 15, the skirt part is 22, that is 37, and I'll be adding the gathers part. I'll be cutting out 9 inches for the gathers part. Altogether, it is 46 inches for the full length of the dress. The line at the top is the waistline, while the one I'm marking now is the hip line. From the waistline to the hip line is 10 inches, and from the hip line I'm marking out the knee line. The knee line is 19 inches from the waistline. I'm labeling my pattern now for the waistline, hip line, knee line, and the full length of the skirt. I am going in with the waist measurements divided by 4 on the waistline, and on the hip line I'll go in with the hip measurements divided by 4. Whatever I have on the hip line, I'll deduct 1 from it and mark it on the knee line. It is the same thing I'll also be marking on the full length. I'll go in with my curve now and connect all those points together. I am adding 1 inch allowance to this pattern, but it is totally optional because the fabric I am working with is a stretchy fabric. I'm only adding allowance for the purpose of those that will not be using a stretchy fabric for this style, so that they don't forget to add allowance. I am adding ½ inch joining allowance to the down part of the skirt, and I'll cut it out. I have opened up my pattern now, and from the hip line I'll make a curve to touch the other side of the skirt, just like you see me doing. I'm cutting out now, and I will transfer to fabric. I'll also be using this pattern to cut out the back. I have placed my pattern on the fabric and I have pinned it down. I'll cut out exactly what I have on the pattern. To cut out the back now, I folded my pattern into 2 and I pinned it on the fabric. From the center, I'll mark out 1.5 inches for the zip allowance, and after marking, I'll cut it out. Mark the zip allowance on your fabric and also notch where the zip allowance will start from. After that, I'll separate the pattern from the fabric and I'll open it up. I'm using my pin to hold the zip allowance in place now, and after holding it in place, I'll open it up. I'll bring the front fabric and I'll place it on the back. I'll trace out what we have in front on the back. After tracing, I'll cut it out. This is after I was done with the front of the dress. This is what I was telling you about the dart. So from the bust point, you leave a space of 1 inch by the side before the bust dart and also before the waist dart. I'll go ahead and iron it flat now. You can also trim out the excess on the bust dart. You can trim out the excess allowance and overlock. I'll go ahead and add the facing too and stitch around the neckline, and I'll bring it back. This is after I was done stitching the neckline, and I went ahead to overlock the facing, and I trim out the excess allowance on the bust dart. So this is what we have. I'll go ahead now and join the lower part of the front to the upper part. I'll join with ½ inch allowance. This is what the back is looking like. I've added the facing and I've also stitched the darts in place. The next thing I want to do now is to join the lower parts to this back. I'll bring the lower parts now and I will join it. On the zip allowance, I ironed interfacing to the wrong part, so go ahead and iron interfacing to yours. I will join with 1/2 inch allowance, and after joining I will bring it back and show you. This is the front of the dress, and I went ahead to overlock the waistline. And also for the back, I have done the same thing to the back. I went ahead to overlock the waistline. The next thing now is to join the sides. So you know I added 1/2 inch allowance to the upper part and 1 inch allowance to the lower part. So I'll go ahead now and join with 1.5 inch. Because it is a stretchy fabric, I can even join with 2 inches. It will still fit because it is a stretchy fabric. That was why I was emphasizing on not adding allowance to the patterns at all, because it will definitely fit because I'm working with a stretchy fabric. I'll go over to the sewing machine now and join the sides, and I'll also join the shoulder, and I'll bring it back and show you. I am done joining the shoulder and the sides now, and I also went ahead to iron the sides properly, and this is what we have. The next thing now is to join the lower part of this dress to it. Measure around the hemline and whatever you have, because I'm measuring on fold, whatever I have there, I'll cut out ×4 of the measurement I have there. So now I have cut out ×4 of the measurement I have on the round hem, and the length I cut out is 10 inches. By the time I fold in 1/2 inch at the top and the bottom, I'll be left with 9 inches. I'll go ahead now and join the pieces together, and after joining that, I'll fold the hem with 1/2 inch, and I'll also run a gather stitch at the top, and I'll bring it back. This is what we have after I was done with that. I'll go ahead and pull the threads now to form the gathers. This is after I was done pulling the gathers. I'll go ahead and join the gathers to the down part of the dress like this, and I'll bring it back. This is what the dress is looking like now. Go ahead and iron the gathers part so that it relaxes on the dress. I went ahead to iron mine, and I also overlocked the raw edges, and this is what we have. The next thing now is to fix in the sleeves. This is my basic bodice pattern, and I used it to cut out the sleeves. It is a short sleeve. If you don't know how to cut out a sleeve, I'll put the link in the description box. I'll go ahead now and join the sides of the sleeve and also fold the hem, and I'll bring it back so that I can attach it to the dress. I'll fix my sleeve to the armhole, and after that I'll go ahead and fix zip to the back of the dress. Thank you guys for watching. Please like my video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your notification bell so that you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.